Do you know, while we're building this API, we need to let these front end team know, because this is going to make a breaking change for them. So we can't just change it. One thing that I'm not going to say is impossible, because I think everything's possible in the right context.
He or she wants to move their career in the field of IT, especially in the software testing domain. Your best advice to that particular individual as per your experience and perception.
In a local area, and you want a job where you can walk in and go to the office, you need to figure out who are the companies who are hiring testers in my area.
Hello, Ben. First of all, a very warm welcome to my channel. That is Salesforce Testing Guy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am also very fine. Thank you so much, Ben, for asking. And thank you so much, first of all, for joining. And as you already aware, Ben, in this podcast, we are going to discuss one of the very simple and important concept in terms of podcast. That is, what is the agenda of a testing? What is the end goal of a testing? Why testing is important from the perception of beginners, basically, who don't have a penny idea about like what is actually testing and what is the future scope of testing.
Absolutely. So this sounds very interesting as a topic. I'm really looking to get stuck in and see what we can explore.
True. Before we proceed to the set of questions that I have prepared for you, I just want you to please introduce yourself to my audience so that my audience have a better insight about you, how Ben has started their journey in the beautiful domain of software testing.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So a little bit about me. So hi, I'm Ben. You may know me online as the Full Snack Tester. I do love my sweet and salty popcorn, and other snacks are available. I've been working in software testing now for about 10 years, and I've had the privilege to work across a number of different domains and in a number of different companies and working styles. So I've worked in teams where I am part of a large test team where there are multiple layers of test teams. I've worked in teams where there are only 2 or 3 testers in the whole company, and the company's only 40 people big as a small software consultancy. And the majority of the work that I've done is where I've been embedded in a software development team. So my main colleagues have been developers, and other teams have had other testers of their own. So I've kind of had a bit of a range of different working styles. And I've also worked on various different things, from mobile apps and front ends and crazy back end stuff, right the way from enterprise kind of virtual desktops and kind of more standard web app and microservice based stuff. So I've had a lot of fun testing a lot of different things.
Okay, that's perfect. And according to your point of view, like for example, I believe that, or we believe that, I think that this is a mutual understanding. Maybe we can elaborate in the best possible way. Like, customer is the king of a market, and there is no doubt about it. And if we are talking about the testing goal, our main goal is to clarify that there is no bug in the production when a client is going to use our application. So your thoughts on customer-centric testing approach?
Absolutely. So in my opinion, in my experience, is that kind of the ultimate aim of building software is to help solve a problem. And those problems are for our customers and therefore our users, which may not be the same thing.
Exactly.
We may have customers who have their own user base. And ultimately, the thing we're trying to achieve is kind of good, useful, and correct software for those customers, for those users. And testing is a very important tool to help us do that. And the goal isn't to do the best software testing you can possibly do as if it's some kind of, I don't know, sport or a race, although obviously doing software testing well is very useful.
Okay.
The end game is to deliver great software.
Okay. And one question which is right now very trending in terms of, if I'm talking about the blogging part, according to your perception, What makes a good tester great?
Ooh, that's a very good question. What makes a good tester great? So, one thing that I truly believe is that in order to be any good at anything, you first have to be brave enough to try.
Exactly.
And really, in order to improve yourself, you need this kind of willingness to do something badly or not perfectly first and keep practicing and get better and better. So to me, a great tester is someone who's willing to work with other people to run experiments
Okay.
and keep pushing themselves to improve. And I think that really, great testing comes from that experimentation and working with others.
Exactly.
It's not, that you have to, I don't know an exact language or use a perfect technique. It's more you know how to work best with other people
Hmm.
and get the most out of other people.
Okay, that's perfect. Now, my next question is bit related to the case study part. Like, for example, if I'm talking about the corporate culture, it is majorly divided into two major categories. First is non-technical part, and the second one is technical part. And in technical part, we have, you can say, the developer, tester, business analyst, and many more. In terms of non-technical, you can say that admin, HR, and many more. According to your perception, Ben, if a person who is in the non-technical background, say for example HR role, and he or she wants to move their career in the field of IT, especially in the software testing domain, your best advice to that particular individual as per your experience and perception.
Okay, so that's a really interesting one. So my background is that I was a lot more technical than I was business focused first. So
Yes.
I kind of came the other way, where I came to software development with a relatively strong technical background. If you're coming the other way, what I would say is play to your strengths. So all, skills and experiences are valuable to contribute to building great products.
Exactly.
So start by bringing the thing you're already good at, because that diversity of thinking, that skills that you already have are very transferable to software testing and building software. So it may be that you already have a good connection to the user base, or it may be that you already understand well what are the problems in the business side of things.
Exactly.
And you can bring those to the technical people and work together in order to solve problems better. If you then want to level up with the technical, the best thing I would say is make a start. The most important thing is to start. There are so many resources out there. If by technical you mean writing code, then go and write some code. Honestly, there are so many different languages out there that are very accessible, and there are lots of different courses and ways to get in, some of which are free if you don't have the funds, some of which are paid if you have the means to do so. You really do have a lot of opportunity to pick up the technical. I would say don't be afraid to try the technical.
Exactly.
Those of us who are there doing it, the only real difference is we've put the hours in, and you could do it as well.
Exactly. And as I've gone through your profile of LinkedIn, and my definition of LinkedIn is equal to professional social media platform. Now, this question is also a bit tricky, you can say that, as you have to consider two things. One is a developer, and the second is a tester. As a developer, I can showcase my skills by making any type of replica of any application, whether you can say that Zoom, Facebook, Insta, so on and so forth. And on the basis of that, I can, showcase my skills on LinkedIn. But as a tester, how I can showcase my skills on a platform like LinkedIn instead of putting my photo?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and um, really, again, it depends on playing on your strengths, and it depends on what kind of skills from testing you want to showcase to people. Okay, so one way is to contribute and join in to the testing community, and there are loads and loads of ways to do that. That could be writing blog posts and articles and sharing your experience.
Mm,
One great way that I treat blog posts and the way that I blog is if there's something I'm thinking about now or I have recently done or a problem I'm trying to solve, I write about the thing that I'm doing or the thing that I'm thinking about or discussing.
mm,
And that's the topic that I'll pick. And then it is a good reference for me to come back later. But it is also a way of putting stuff out there that's my kind of thinking on a topic and that other people can pick that up and use that. You could also take part in podcasts,
yeah,
like your podcast right here. And there are loads of other ways to contribute and kind of be visible. So there are a lot of different communities. There's the Ministry of Testing, and they have their whole kind of /contribute area where there are loads of things you can do to join in and be visible. Another route is that you can do some test sessions and either record it via way of a blog or a video and put it out there. One thing I would highly recommend is find a friend to do this together, because
exactly.
if you've got someone to kind of collaborate with and play off, you could do a session together. So for example, you
Mm,
could choose either make a pretend product and make it up and do some kind of analysis together, or pick something out there that's on the market. Could be something straightforward. Pick a product that exists in the world, probably not the one where you're working at.
exactly.
That you and your buddy can test. There's loads of open source products out there. Just pick something, I don't know, some kind of photo editor or a music player or anything kind of tangible that people is quite common.
Okay.
Um, and try out a testing technique. Do it together. Like do some testing, record it, put it out there, or record your experience in some kind of blog post. Use whatever you feel you can creatively express.
Okay.
I would also say don't feel pressure that you have to be visible or that you have to have a portfolio in order to get a
Mm,
job or to get into the industry. While it can be useful and it can be interesting if it excites you,
okay.
that's not the only way in. You can still, and this is potentially different in different markets, so I can't necessarily speak for your full user base. But I wasn't visible when I started my career. I've got some more visibility now, and it definitely helps. But yeah, play to your strengths and choose what feels right for you.
True. Ben, like we are a part of a 21st century, and at the end, like for example, my goal is very simple that like how I can add the value in the testing ecosystem, whatever I am doing, like podcast is there, blogging is there, interaction with different individuals on daily basis. I am using this particular mechanism in order to add some value in the testing ecosystem. But as per your experience, like in an organization, how I can, as a person, impact in an organization or as a tester? How do I ensure that I am the one who is somewhere creating an impact in the organization as a software tester, as per your experience and perception?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and this is where context matters. And what I actually mean is a little bit more than just it depends. What I mean is one of the things that you can be good at as a tester, especially if you've gained some experience over time, is understanding context quickly and investigating that context. What do I mean by context? I mean competitor products. I mean the current state of deployment. I mean the user feedback. I mean the current state of different parts of the product in your system. So what are other teams doing?
Okay.
And when you kind of have an idea of that landscape, one of the ways you can make impact is by bringing that back to your team so that you're recognizing,
Hmm.
oh, do you know, while we're building this API, we need to let these front end team know because
Hmm.
this is going to make a breaking change for them. So we can't just change it
Exactly.
without speaking to them. So bringing that context back into your team is one way. I think the other way is you can use some of the same techniques that you might learn from testing about identifying risk and reviewing things to find
Hmm.
problems in your team or in your organization and
Okay.
then run experiments. So depending on the scope of your role and whether you're kind of have the agency to do this or not, this is obviously depending on your
Okay.
context. You can make a lot of impact by kind of finding problems and starting projects to try and fix them, but you don't have to do it alone. You can try and hook up with other people, work collaboratively. The last thing you can do to make impact is do it by yourself, because actually this is an anti-pattern. Instead of kind of trying to work out your glory for how you can make the world better, you also need to figure out who you need to bring with you.
Definitely, this is why do it for yourself first. And one more question related to this particular thing. Like for example, I believe that like bug reporting is an art. Do you believe in the same thing? If I'm not wrong.
So I believe two things about bug reports, and that is that number one is that you should write a bug report as if you're trying to fix the bug. And by that, I mean the bug report is really your opportunity to try and give whoever else is going to be involved in fixing it help to figure out what's wrong. So you need to add into there only the things that are going to make the lives easier for the developers who are going to fix it. And by that, I mean, don't add a whole load of stuff in there just because you know it's true, but it isn't relevant. But you also need to try and do your work to dig down and see where the problem is. Now, what I would say is that's cool when you found a bug and there's a bug report and you actually have to go as far as raising a bug.
Okay.
But the next step is to figure out, well, hang on a minute, how can we predict the problems we're going to have and work better as a team to prevent the bugs in the first place? So
Exactly.
I think that the art is to try and not have to raise a report at all, because you're fixing things before they're released, before they're considered to be finished. And for this, I really recommend pairing with the developer who's doing the work and seeing if you can test it together as part of development instead of waiting until kind of, the PR is merged or something like this.
Okay. Do you believe that documentation provides you an upper edge in terms of performing the testing, as per your experience? Like in our project, for example, consider a situation where I have to work on a project where everything is properly documented. But on the other hand, right now I'm working on a project where not at all a single documentation is there. So do you think that, as per your experience, I hope you are getting my point if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so I've worked in a couple of different situations. One where I was working with a business analyst who wrote beautiful requirements and documentation, and the project was very heavily specified. And then every other real project I've ever worked on, which has been very minimally documented with very minimal requirements.
Okay.
What I would actually say is, while documentation is very helpful, you also have to be aware of the bias that it can bring in, because things you describe about your project tend to be aspirational. Anything other than the code and your observations of the code running in an environment is ultimately a very useful indicator of people's intentions, but it isn't the same as the reality of what is currently there. And I think testing as a way to discover the reality that then means you can have a conversation with your team. Hang on a minute, we documented that this software is going to, I don't know, have green buttons everywhere, but we've written blue buttons. Now, maybe it's a really bad idea that we were doing green buttons because of red-green colorblind, and actually the documentation is wrong. Or maybe we didn't meet the acceptance criteria because we really need green buttons, and there's a really good reason.
Exactly.
And this is where the documentation helps, because it helps to describe the intention, and without the intention, you can still have the conversation. Is this correct? But it can be hard to you have to have the conversation from scratch. Whereas if you have enough documentation to give you that, this is what we intended to do, it's much easier to find the difference between what you intended and what you've done.
Okay. I believe in one more thing. Like understanding the requirement is one of the skill of a tester. I believe that. And according to your perception, Ben, how to improve the approach of understanding the requirement?
Okay, so this one, there's a couple of tools that are involved that I would definitely use that I've been using. Okay, so in terms of understanding the requirements, first of all, I consider all requirements that I receive to kind of be a starting point.
Hmm.
And I always find that there are more requirements than are initially written down. So these are what I call hidden or implicit requirements. So for example, this is where things like your quality aspects or your sometimes people call them illities come in. So it might be that there's an expectation that everything is secure and you need some security testing, or that everything is
Hmm.
accessible, so you need some accessibility testing. This list is very long, so I'm not going to list every illity that I can, but effectively these things that I like to call quality aspects and operational requirements
Okay.
tend to come on top of the explicit requirements that are written down. And even with the explicit requirements that are written down, there are often gaps. So as you exactly said, understanding requirements and questioning them and pulling them apart and finding
Exactly.
gaps is a really useful skill as a tester. One way to do this that I don't think I'd even had time to play with last time we spoke, but I recently went to Test Bash UK, and I went to a workshop with Kika, or Kika Knows Test on Twitter, and she introduced me to the idea of example mapping. And I don't know if you've ever used this, but it's a very cool technique. So what you do is you get your user stories,
Okay.
and then you break that down to have business rules under the user stories, and then examples under the business rules.
Okay.
And this can form part of doing BDD.
Okay.
And I haven't had a lot of time to play with this technique yet, but I'm definitely going to give it a go next, because I
Okay.
think this kind of way of breaking down stories, business rules, and then examples could be a really good way to break down requirements in a way I haven't tried yet. So that's my new hot off the press next thing I'm going to try.
True, true. And thank you so much for highlighting this answer in the best possible way. And my next question is related to the technology part. Like, as a
Mhm.
tester, how to be more focused on learning new technologies? Because we can't compromise the technology part, and learning is a never-ending process, as you already know.
Man, I love technology. So this is the thing for me, is I really like my technology. So learning about technology is split into multiple parts, right? The same as any other learning.
True.
There's going out and finding things that are written and material that exists in the world, kind of your source material. And for technology, one of the things I do is I always try and keep up to date with various kind of blogs and tech news. So
Mm.
I'm always following kind of the mainstream tech news, like the Register and Tom's Hardware. And I used to, this is a great accessibility point, I used to always read The Verge, and they did a redesign recently, and now I can't use their website because it actually makes me feel ill to use it because their new design is so awful,
True.
which is really bad. But I used to follow them. But like literally a whole load of blogs and a whole load of this where you're just listening to the things people are saying because technology moves so fast. But then there's the other side of it, is you need to have a go using it. So um one example I had from some time ago in a couple jobs previous is we were having problems getting a test environment set up for one of our clients, where we didn't have an environment to run
Okay.
the Docker containers hosted in a way that we were going to be able to do it in production. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting for a test environment.
Okay.
Um, and this was delaying everything. And I hadn't used Docker before at this point. And I decided, okay, let's get technical on this. Rather than be blocked waiting for a test environment, I'm going to speak to the developers and I'm going to get them to show me how they run this stuff locally on their machine. I'm going to install Docker. I'm going to give it a go. I'm just going to learn.
Okay.
And in about a week, I learned enough to be able to run this stuff locally, and I'd unblocked my testing. And This is one of the ways that I really like to learn technology, is kind of that needs-based. Don't let kind of your ignorance of technology stand in the way. Figure out what you need to do and just go and learn it right now.
Definitely. And one more question, one curious question. Like we are from India, like I'm from India, and India is very, very cultural diversification. We have a lots of cultural diversification. But right now, in terms of testing as a culture in an organization, like for example, my last company using the approach is of build and fix methodology. Now we are a part of a century where agile is also trending, and so on and so forth. As per your experience and perception, Ben, like how to establish a good testing culture in an organization?
I'll tell you when I get there. No, okay. So I can do better than that. I can do a bit better than that. So one of the things that I've had success with this year is working actually not with the primary team that I'm in, but a secondary team.
Okay.
Who are knowledge engineers. These are doctors who code, who are building up some of
Hmm.
the core part of our system. And I've been working with them to share them with them the joy of exploratory testing, and especially ensemble or paired exploratory testing.
Okay.
And the way that I did this is very straightforward, and that is I started off with an experiment by pairing with one other person,
Hmm.
and I wrote down what we did, and I invited them to do it again.
Okay.
And then I created a regular session. So every Monday I was doing an hour, and we started to invite different people. And then once we'd done 2 or 3 sessions, other people in the team were hearing about the stuff we were doing and they wanted to get involved.
Okay.
So by doing experiments and then socializing the results, you can get people interested in the thing you're doing. It's very much a lead forward effect. In my experience, what you can't do, and this is true for an agile, like what do they call it? An agile transformation.
Yes,
And
agile
these things that,
transformation.
yeah, okay. An agile transformation. One thing that I'm not going to say is impossible, because I think everything's possible in the right context. But one thing that's very challenging and is prone to failure is telling everyone what to do and giving it a deadline and a budget is a
True.
really great way to make it very hard for everything to succeed. So building a culture is is much more about getting people involved and working with them, and kind of being aware of the fact that you need to add to the culture that's already there. What you can't do is try and impose what you think is the right thing to do and get other people to do it. Like, you need to lead by joining in, and you also need to
Hmm.
be open to following some things that other people are doing.
Hmm.
So this is the other thing, is listen. Figure out what other people are
And-
involved in. So while it's cool to lead by doing and bringing people with you, you also need to be open to what other people are doing, because yeah, you can't, in my experience, and I've had people try to agile me or like transform me into being more scrum like, I don't know.
Okay.
um this stuff really builds from the ground up, and it's all about people. And like I say, the one thing that is um good is when management support you. The
Hmm.
one thing that works very badly is when they say, this is the way we're going, and this is when you're going to be agile by.
Okay. That's perfect. Now, as we are talking about the leadership part, leading, doing, both are two different things. I believe in one quote with respect to the leaders. For me, a leader is the one who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. That I, read one of the quote of about the leader. Your any message to the testing leaders?
Ooh, a message to the testing leaders: bring us with you. uh yeah, so I mean, the one thing I would say is I'm a big believer in, I think they call it sometimes servant leadership, but I'm not sure that's the best term, almost, but like collaborative or
Hmm.
enabling leadership maybe is a better term. But I'm a big believer in leadership who actually joins in. There's a great person called Stu in the community, and one of the things he says is that as a leader, he needs skin in the game, right? He likes to, when he's coaching a team on how to achieve a certain thing, he joins the team and
Hmm.
he's involved in doing the work as well. He doesn't do it from a distance. He needs to join in and be invested in doing it. And I really think that's a very strong style of leadership where you join in. And as you said, you have to have the vision and show other people, but you have to
Exactly.
go as well. You can't
Hmm.
just say, hey, I'm going to lead by telling all you to go over there. It's like, no, that doesn't work so well.
Yes, actually, there is a lot of difference between a boss and leader. So always be a leader in your life instead of boss. So a leadership is the one who leads the team. And in internet, if you search the full form of team, you got one result like together everyone achieves more. So that makes an impact at the end. So this is actually called a true leadership from my perception. And this is the last question of this podcast, Ben. Like, although we are not very heavy knowledgeable persons, to be very frank, we are just a normal human beings, but we have one thing that makes a difference, and that is our experience. So as per your experience and perception, what all your suggestions to all those aspiring testing professionals who just want to start their career in the field of a beautiful domain of software testing?
That's a great question. The best advice I can give you is make a start. And I know that sounds very
Yes.
like don't be afraid to try and start. So starting for you might be updating your CV and trying to figure out transferable skills. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of skills that are involved in software testing, whether that is understanding about software or that might be understanding about how software is built or how teams work or how you can find risks and communicate them. It might be that you want to get some training, but actually start by understanding where you're at now
Hmm.
and like kind of reviewing what you know and figuring out some transferable skills. If
Yes.
you don't have a good feeling about what the skills are that you need, try and find someone who's already in testing and talk to them about your skills and see which ones are more obvious to put forward.
Okay.
And then you can start applying for the jobs
That's
and kind of build it from there. So yeah, work with what you've got and
hmm.
don't be afraid to start. You don't need to spend 2 or 3 years getting certificates or trainings to start in software testing, but you
Okay.
do need to go and apply for the job. So figure out what's in your market. This is the other thing, right? Is people watching might be from all around the world, and your market is probably different. So if you're in a local area and you want a job where you can walk in and go to the office, you
Hmm.
need to figure out who are the companies who are hiring testers in my area.
Hmm.
Speak to some recruiters, speak to some hiring managers, find out what they want, and then give it to them, right?
Exactly.
You have to do your research about your own market because I don't know all the global markets. I know what to do in my one corner of the world, in my niche of the industry, but you have to do your own research by finding testers who are already working in your market or hiring managers or recruiters and figure out what you can do. LinkedIn, you already mentioned already earlier, this is a great source for finding your community.
Exactly.
You can go to LinkedIn, or join any of the wonderful testing communities that are out there. Ask questions.
Exactly. And thank you so much, Ben, for joining and sharing your valuable key points about the goal of a testing, future of testing, like and skills that a tester need in order to improve their approach, your best suggestions, and many more. So again, a very thank you so much, Ben, for joining and sharing your valuable key points. It means a lot for me and my channel, that is Salesforce Testing Guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.